So what I wanted to do today in this talk, I wanted to invite Garnet. So Garnet is an investor, and I think as each of us as data professionals, we work in our jobs, we get paid fairly well, but I feel like the folks building startups can get paid disproportionately well and have disproportionate outcomes. So I wanted to invite Garnet to give us a different perspective today. Take it away.
Hello. Nice to be here. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Are we?
Yeah, quick slides.
There we go. All right.
There you go.
So I don't know how many investors are in the room. I'm guessing not that many. Can you hear me all right? All right, good. But when Mark offered me the chance to have this chat with y'all, I kind of jumped at it because I thought it was a great way to sort of get to know more about the entrepreneurial spirit that lives in this cadre, and also be able to share a little bit more information about Aperture VC and the kind of investments that we're making in AI and ML ops, and all sorts of other related fields. And so here we are. So I'm a big fan also of not necessarily interrupting, but I love the engagement with the audience. So if there's anything that like jumps up at you as a question, I don't know what the formal mechanism is for asking questions, but
Just raise your hand.
I say ask it, because that's way more interesting than probably than anything I'm going to say. So we'll go. There we go. All right, so this is the pretty boring part. I'm old. I've been around for a while. I've been investing since 2006 or so. Prior to that, I built 3 companies. I exited twice. I sold one of my companies to a public company. We run a fund called Aperture VC, $75 million specialist fund, backed by Bank of America, PayPal, Truist, FIS, Mass Mutual, Progressive, and a whole bunch of other names. Not quite as popular as NVIDIA, but some recognizable names anyway. We've made a number of investments that you either know of or you're going to hear of real soon, as far as blockbuster type financings, starting with Prion, Alafia, Connecto, Freeing Returns, Greenline. And then before that, like back in the early 2000s, my contact with the nexus of technologies that led to this boom and this renaissance in AI started with a lot of intellectual property acquisitions that I was doing for one of my companies. We were literally going around to universities in North America and buying up patent portfolios, many of which were NLP and NLP precursor technologies. So that's it. Boring one. The reason I'm here is the reason why McKinsey writes stuff like this. All the big brains of McKinsey are forecasting huge growth and lots of opportunities. So 3 of the top 15 are AI related, and I would argue everything on here is basically going to be impacted, if not disrupted, by AI. So this is why I'm here. I suspect this is why you're here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I can just tell you that Aperture is deeply interested in speaking with folks on both sides of this equation. And we're really, really interested in speaking with folks who are kind of taking a holistic approach to creating solutions, enterprise solutions in particular, that comprise both sides of the equation. So, all right. Deal flow. I am looking for, well, this is like a trap, right? This is the BCG trap. I'm looking for everything in the top right quadrant, right? But I'm open to basically speaking with anyone and potentially funding anyone in pretty much any quadrant on here, right? I think a great opportunity to invest could come from pretty much anywhere on this grid, but definitely, the more specific, the more enterprise, the more I guess disruptive. I'm definitely interested. So please come find me.
Perfect. Okay, so when you pitched a VC, I'm pitching my AI startup to a VC. How far along should I be in my development before I come talk to you?
There's like a slight reverb on your mic.
Oh, sorry. How far along should I be in my AI startup before I come talk to you?
Great question. So, if I were younger and like buying up patent portfolios, that would be pretty early, but that's not really where we're at right now. I would say for us, for our fund, um, post MVP and post customer engagement. I'm not even going to use the word traction really, because the time between you get a customer to say, "Hey, that's awesome," and the time that you have 50 customers all paying you, that time has gotten very short now, right? So something has to be built, something has to be in the market, and some indication that a meaningfully sized customer is willing to pay for it has to be there. It doesn't even have to be the revenue yet. That's the time to start talking to someone like Aperture. Yeah.
And how much money should I come ask you for, typically?
You should be asking us for anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million. We consider ourselves like very typical seed stage investors, post product, post revenue. But even revenue is up for grabs nowadays, right? In your space in particular, there are a lot of accommodations and there's a lot of latitude being afforded, products that are maybe not actually generating meaningful revenue. And so, anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million. But the special thing about Aperture is not the check, which is, I suspect, useful on some level. The special thing about Aperture, and the two of my portfolio companies are here in the audience, you can ask them. The special thing about Aperture is we punch above our weight a little bit because of who invested in our fund. So when you have $750 billion of market cap in public companies investing in your fund, you have certain opportunities to create alignment between a portfolio company and one of our corporate investors. And that's actually kind of our signature engagement model. We aggressively look for that alignment and implement those alignments between companies that we want to invest in and the corporations that are in a position to basically, make your customer ramp go faster, give you a big logo for your deck for the next round, whatever it is. But that's what's really special about us.
By show of hands, how many folks in the room actively sell to corporations, like some data analytics service? Okay, some folks. How many of you? Okay, so everyone else probably works in corporations or startups. Okay, this is interesting. All right, you could go to the next slide.
Okay. See, I told you I was going to fall asleep. All right, AI use cases in fintech. We're a fintech fund backed by the kind of brands that I mentioned. So you would suspect that we're if you're backed by banks and insurance companies, we're aggressively looking in fintech, but we define fintech really, really widely. I mean, so one of my companies in the audience is fintech and mobile food POS and payments, and the other is basically production management and accounting management with a heavy AI component in entertainment and media, and we define both of those as fintech. So very widely defined. Just scanning across the portfolio, we have investments in cybersecurity, in payment integrity for healthcare, search. What a surprise!
Yes.
And 3 or 4 other verticals that you might not otherwise associate with fintech. So this is where people are using it now, but I think that spectrum of where people are using it in fintech is going to get massively wide. So.
Mm-hmm. So as an institutional investor, are you more interested in companies selling to enterprises or companies selling to consumers?
Yeah, mostly enterprise, and I think any professional investor you ask that question is going to say they have a preference for enterprise, but
why is
most. But the reality is that investing at the seed stage, a lot of companies will be de facto B2B2C. And some of them may actually even be B2C to B. And what do I mean by that? A lot of companies start off by approaching a universe of customers directly, consumers directly, to understand what should live in the feature stack and the functionality and create the value proposition that way. And then basically go on to figuring out a more efficient way to sell it through enterprise sales. So even if they start somewhere else, the bulk of the companies that we look at and favorably and we fund are going to be either B2B or B2B2C, no matter where they started. But they could start, in places that are, maybe not so obvious.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so this is a personal theory, 30 years in the making, because I'm older than probably the vast majority of the audience here. So I've been around since the late 90s, building companies and investing in them. And I've had a lot of opportunities to work with great business partners on the one hand, or co-founders, and then also look at great startup founders. But the flip side of that is I've also seen the absolute worst of the worst in humanity and business and entrepreneurship. And so I've had a chance to sort of compare and contrast over the last almost 30 years now. And my personal theory is based around this profile that I call the contrarian technocrat. What is it? Are you asking or am I going? I'm going, right? All right. So two parts to it. And the first part is probably the thing that I think is the least innovative here, right? Great founders are driven, relentless. They literally have a chip on their shoulder because they're pissed that the world doesn't work the way that they think the world should work. That's as simply as I can, sort of characterize this. And, some people are very loud, like, Kalanick and some of the other Silicon Valley boys like that. And then there are other people who are equally driven and very, very, low key about it. But that's the thing, right? There's got to be this fire in the belly to like fix how fucked up the world is according to their worldview, right? The other piece is probably less, obvious, and I think it's possibly the more important of the two. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. But basically, this is that person, that man or woman who's like fixated with implementing, and can like decompose problems into sequences, and then sequences into action items into delegation points, and so on and so forth. Right? You're all a gifted data scientist. You can appreciate that syllogism that I just went through, right? This is the piece. This is the piece that really deceptive and very hard to like judge, in my opinion. This is the piece that never loses, right? They either fix it or they win, one or the other. So that's it. Contrarian technocrat. And I think, I don't know if I want to say this now or after your question, but I'll just say it real quick. So you're almost never going to find this in a single human being. The accommodation that I have for this is that if the founder or co-founders are smart enough to have a team, an array of profiles that fits this on the founding team, that's actually very acceptable. It might even be ideal.
You made a comment to me earlier about you can't necessarily train someone to become a contrarian technocrat. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, because it's the sticking point to me is, and I'd love to debate this with someone, is the contrarian part, right? Because I think the vast majority of people, in the, I'm gonna sound like a dick. The vast majority of people in the tech world are not necessarily hyper motivated or to the level where they would rise to the level of contrarian, right? They have a vision for their next job title, or they have a vision for their next pay grade, and God bless you, mazel tov, right? Whatever. That's different. I feel like contrarian is like, it's a mindset. It's a birth defect. It's congenital.
Cool. All right, you can go to the next one.
You like the birth defect one? Somebody in the audience is going to get pissed because it's not PC.
So one of the things I wanted everyone to walk away with from this conversation is, I'm trying to prepare you, if you want to build a startup, how to be successful when you talk to a VC. and to not lose face when you go talk to that person, because I'm sure you folks talk to each other about this guy came
Yeah.
to pitch me, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We talk shit about people all the time.
And this is what it's like when you engage with VCs.
So if there's anyone in this audience who fits this profile, please, let's be friends. All right, so here we go. When Mark asked me to do this, he asked me to sort of like to be very like open and like, you know, like emotionally intelligent about like my fears and all this kind of stuff. So here you go. And I can't tell you that every investor thinks this way, because I'm not sure they do. But what we're going to cover in this next little section is like the things that really upset investors or like keep them up at night and, you know, take years off their life and all that stuff. So, okay, so it not surprisingly, since, you know, the VC business is a for-profit business, it's a lot of it is based around like, you know, how your mistakes, you know, or other people's mistakes, you know, can cause you to lose money. So, what a surprise. And after years and years of looking at this, and obviously I'm not the only person who thinks this way, but you know, you can list the reasons in two broad buckets. Lack of need, and basically you really suck at managing your money and you run out of money, you know, before you can controvert the lack of need piece. If you can deliver on just those two things, I can't guarantee success, but you for sure will live longer, and you'll have a fair shake at making your company successful, where lots of other folks don't get a fair shake at. All right, I'll stop there.
Well, you had mentioned something to me about things being overhyped, and I think this is a great time where you see a lot of businesses being overhyped. I can show you one good demo. I can build that in a week with some really good engineers, and now I come to you and say, hey, give me a little, you know, 1.5 million. We know each other. You know, I'm ready to go. Leave NVIDIA. I'm gonna do this big startup. How do you judge if a startup is overhyped?
Well, okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I know you were trying to trip me up, right?
Yeah,
so you're not, the tripping up, which you may succeed at, the tripping up is not for the reasons you think. There's just that there's a lot of ways to tell. That's the challenge, right? So okay. I'm just gonna like just go off the top of my head. So, you know, if you show up in TechCrunch and Forbes too many times, you're probably overhyped. If you look at your operating budget and you're spending more time on like any form of if you're spending more money on any form of marketing or events, no offense to this event, if you're spending more money on that than on, let's just call it customer intimacy, the broad category, customer discovery, PLG, whatever it is, right? If you're spending more money on that stuff and you're pre-Series A, you're probably overhyped. Then the third one that comes to mind is actually, it's a founder pathology. So any founders in the room, I apologize in advance, but I got to find a nice way to say it, because I don't have a nice way.
Be kind of nice. Be kind of nice.
So the nice way to say it is like, that they exhibit this behavior around, you know, possibly it's a millennial behavior. I don't know, honestly, you know, because it wasn't like this when I was growing up. But they have this behavior where the smallest accomplishments, you know, are never like, you know, battle tested. They're never criticized. They're never like contextualized. Any accomplishment, like for revenue or anything like this, is they get a trophy for in their own mind, right? In their own mind, they crushed it. And it's you know, a lot of times I look at these things and I'm like, who gives a shit? It's like, it's mediocre shit. It's like, it's not repeatable. It's not scalable. Who gives a shit? You know, so the thing that I would say is like this inability to be objective about your own accomplishments is like a great indicator that you and or your company and or your space is overhyped.
Move to the next slide.
All right. See, I'm committed to pissing somebody off in this audience. Okay, must-haves. I won't say that because there's probably some geek in the audience who will know this, but that I will buy a cocktail for anyone who knows that word, Brobignagian. Anyone? No one.
Oh,
Someone? I can't hear him.
yeah. Are you a guy? You go somebody
See?
a drink.
That's why we invested in him.
Okay. So
That's
that was
one
his
of my
test.
portfolio companies.
That was his test. So you get
Oh, my
tests
goodness.
when you take money from a VC, you get a test.
You can't even script stuff like that, man. That's crazy. Okay, so look, all kidding aside, nobody knows if they're going to win or lose, so you're always just trying to risk mitigate. And so the way you risk mitigate is just play the numbers as best as you can, right? Your market needs to be huge, right? Anybody know what a lily pad is? No one. Okay. So in addition to like your market being huge, you have to have that kind of mindset. This is the technocrat part, right? Lily pads are usually done by technocrats. So a lily pad is basically, hey, I'm gonna do this methodical, almost military build out. I'm gonna land on this lily pad and I'm gonna dominate this lily pad. Then I'm gonna go to the next lily pad, I'm gonna dominate that lily pad. And so on and so forth. So it's like, it's just a metaphor for like this mechanical, almost like militaristic build out of your customer market, your market share, sales, whatever it is. I'd rather talk to someone who like is literally in bed with their customer and has that level of like near sexual intimacy about what they need, you know, than talk to someone who's like reading it from TechCrunch or like, you know, graduated from Stanford and has a lot of opinions and no real like experience, right? I'd rather talk to those people, you know, that have a mania for customer knowledge and customer intimacy. And this is just risk mitigation, right? Enterprise design partners, like, so I'm not a great technician. I never was, never will be. And so part of the way that I make judgments about like who's actually doing the right things with the right tech for the right customers is by figuring out if big companies are willing to pay for it. Not surprisingly, I have a number of big companies invested in my fund. So I actually will use them to sort of cross-reference with whatever I'm being told by founders. And proof of concept, just, you know, money in the bank, whatever.
You can go to the next one.
Next one?
I have a good one for you.
Okay, next part. There you go. So this is this is more the sort of managing your money part, right? So 2 ways to die if you're a startup. One is shoot, what was the first one? Yeah, you don't have product market fit or product founder fit. The second way to die is to like run out of money. And so, you know, the folks that do best are the folks who never get ahead of themselves as far as like how they deal with expenses, how they deal with scaling, how, you know, and it's you have to disrupt the sequence, right? You know, there's a company that I'm invested in personally. I haven't stopped angel investing. You know, I've been doing it since like 2006 or 7. There's a company that I'm personally invested in that could raise $1 million like tomorrow, and the founder refuses to take money because he committed to having like a paying POC or multiple. He's actually shooting for 50 proofs of concept before he raises outside money. That's crazy, right? I mean, that's a little excessive in my mind, but it does speak to this, you know, sell, code, scale, rinse, and repeat, right? Founder salary. This is sort of a joke, but you know, keep it lean, and don't pre-spend on marketing. Don't go crazy on marketing. Marketing is a money pit.
So they shouldn't sponsor my conference?
Huh?
They shouldn't sponsor my conference, is what you're saying?
They what?
They should not sponsor my conference?
Oh well, that's,
come on, man.
I don't
What are you
know.
doing?
Do you think? Look at who your sponsors are, right? I
No,
mean,
they should.
they've all raised like mega rounds, haven't they?
True story. True story. Okay, so we have only a couple of minutes left. How do you talk to a VC?
I don't know. Like you would anyone else, I guess. You want like tone, or what do you want?
No, what are some mistakes I shouldn't make? So I'm coming to pitch you.
Yeah.
I want money for my startup.
Oh,
How should I come speak?
dude, look at some of these slides and just basically don't do the stuff that's basically gonna be the kiss of death. You know, try to not be emblematic of some of these mistakes. I think a certain amount of honesty and openness and transparency is like super important, but you know, try not to manifest any of these like fatal founder flaws. That would be my advice.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll open it for questions, and then afterwards, in the second half of lunch, Garnet has volunteered to, if anyone wants to talk to him about just interacting with VCs or working with him directly, you can do that as well. So any questions in the audience? We got some. Okay.
I think she's right behind you.
So this isn't directly just limited to your presentation. I very much enjoyed the speaking, but is it okay to take photos of slides for personal notes? I mean,
I can't hear.
Is it okay to take pictures of your slides? Take pictures of his slides. It's fine.
Is what?
Is it okay to take pictures of your slides?
Yeah. Or just give me your email. I'll send it to you. I can't imagine anyone ever wants to use my content, but I'm happy to give it to you, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Got one over here.
So, did I mention that Aperture has this special interest in founders of color and female founders?
You did not. So go ahead.
Well, there you go. So there's an unexpectedly large number of women in this audience. I have personally been investing in, female founders since 2010, and Aperture is explicitly committed to investing in female founders. So, if that makes a difference.
Garnet, so thanks
There
for
you go.
being here. So I'm Lynn. I'm the senior DS at BlackRock. So I have actually two questions for you. The first one is, you have so many amazing investments in your life. So what is one of your best or most worthwhile investment you ever made? It could be the investment of money, the energy, or the time.
Help me. I'm getting reverbs.
Oh, so what's the best investment that you've ever made? It could be, it doesn't necessarily have to
This
be
is a
financial.
great story. You're going to love this. It has shit all to do with data science. So when I was leaving my operating roles and just starting to invest, I thought very seriously about what kind of non-technology investments I could make. And I met a female founder, my first investment in a woman, actually. And she made dresses, and she sold dresses the old-fashioned way, in a suitcase walking from store to store, right? Where everything you sell is worth 50-cent dollars, right? You know what I mean by that? It's wholesale, so it sucks. And in the space of working together, we were one of the first companies in the country to build a direct-to-consumer brand in this space using this little thing called Facebook and this little thing called Instagram, and selling only on Facebook and Instagram. And we were doing that in 2011. And it's astonishing. I mean, the company went from $100,000 in revenue to, I think today it's somewhere in the $6-7 million range. And there's only 2 equity owners, and the profit margins are 40%. So do the math. It's wildly successful, and it has this cult following around the world. And it's literally a little old lady who's sewing dresses on her couch.
Perfect. So we're out of time, but Garnet will be in the Camellia room at the second half of lunch. So we'll meet you over there. Thank you very much for your time.